tarp is off the field, the sun is out in the sky, and it is almost time for Tiger Baseball here in San Antonio, Texas. I'm Brian Yanselson, joined by Luke Terry, as we get to have the Mary Hardin Baylor Crusaders visit the Trinity University Tigers.
Yeah, Brian, it's good to be back in San Antonio to be watching this matchup after 10 straight wins for these Tigers. And I know shortly before that, there's a matchup between these two teams. The Tigers ventured up, played on the road, lost that game. So nice to be back here at home for the rematch between these two.
Yeah, that game on March 22nd up in Belton, the Tigers lost, and they lost one more against Centenary, and they've rattled off 10 victories in a row since then. So definitely a red-hot team here in San Antonio, but the Crusaders will look to get it done with this starting lineup. Leading off in center field, Caden DeBerardini. Batting second at shortstop, Sam Maniga. Batting third at first base, Malik Bolin. Batting cleanup, the catcher, Warren Sammons. Batting fifth in right field, Ryan Farmer. Batting sixth, the designated hitter, Staten Dudley. Batting seventh, the second baseman, Blake Harmon. Batting eighth, the third baseman, Rhett Groves. And batting ninth, the left fielder, Drake Herrera. And that lineup for the Crusaders will go up against the starting pitcher for the Tigers, Joel Thomas, the senior from Scottsdale, Arizona, back on the mound to start things off. He had a start a week ago today against Our Lady of the Lake. And Thomas, who had been coming out of the bullpen so far this season, getting another start this evening.
Yeah, and excited to see a veteran on the mound for this midweek game. Not something that you see very often. I know that on the flip side of things, we're going to be seeing a sophomore for the Crusaders here this evening. But Thomas brings a lot of experience to the mound, and he brings some strikeout capacity that I think the Tigers are really going to be looking for, perhaps out of the bullpen as they move down the conference stretch and into that postseason tournament.
And this is a game between two teams that are on respective roles. The Tigers, we mentioned, have won 10 games in a row, but UMHB have won 4 in a row themselves, and they're coming off a victory against Concordia in which they won 24-7. So these are two offenses that know what it takes to get it done, and we are just about ready to start things off between Thomas and DeBerardini. And the first pitch swung at and hit to short, and it'll go off the glove of Tanner Haney, and DeBerardini reaches base right away here for UMHB.
Yeah, Brian, and stepping into the box, a little bit of surprise right here. DeBerardini swinging it from the left-handed batter's box, something that I don't think we expected looking at the stats and the live stats today. We expected a lot of right-handers, and for Joel Thomas on the mound, I think that's going to benefit him. We'll see if the rest of the statistics, the rest of the batting stances are correct tonight, but a nice swing from DeBerardini to start the day. Not a great pitch, well located from Joel Thomas on the outside part of the plate with a little bit of fade and run arm side.
So often we see the leadoff hitter take a few pitches, work the at-bat, but DeBerardini had other plans. And now Maniga swinging at the first pitch. This one's a little liner to second base, but Colt Harris is right there for the first out, so the Crew out and swinging early.
Yeah, it looks like a couple of two-seam fastballs, again, with that arm side run that are really going to be useful, especially against these right-handed hitters in the lineup. That first at bat against DeBerardini ultimately went against Thomas, that fade, that run arm side, put it right off the end of the bat and allowed him to single through the left side of the infield.
Good idea by Thomas to keep an eye on DeBerardini over there at first. The leadoff hitter has 9 stolen bases on the year, so we'll see if he's off and running here with Malik Bolin at the plate. Although you don't want to take the bat out of Bolin's hands as he lays off a breaking ball to start things off here. Bolin broke UMHB's all-time home run record last week against Concordia with his 27th career home run. So Bolin in his 5th year here at UMHB with plenty of power in that bat. That pitch misses from Thomas inside again, a couple in a row trying to get in on the righty. But Bolin ahead 3-0. We'll see if he has the green light. DeBerardini hasn't gone anywhere at first. And Thomas guns one in for a strike.
And you mentioned the green light right there, Brian. A little bit surprised to see that Bolin didn't have it on that pitch. Fastball, more of a four-seam offering from Thomas right there. In a 3-0 count to, as you mentioned, a fifth-year senior. He has it that time. We've seen it so many times in recent games, more often than not, for the benefit of these Tigers in the batter's box. When they go ahead in these 2-0 counts, the mistakes that get made and choosing to pitch to them.
And Thomas picks off DeBerardini at first. He continued to check on him, and DeBerardini took a step towards second. Thomas checking on him and getting the leadoff runner out. So now Thomas an opportunity to get out of the inning with no damage done. The 3-2 on its way to Bolin. Nobody on now, 2 outs. And the breaking ball misses, so now Bolin will reach first. But good to get that speed off of first and replace him with Bolin now with 2 outs.
Yeah, nice pickoff move over to first base. Not particularly well placed on the throw, but a good job from MJ Metz to catch it and quickly apply that tag, going straight to the runner rather than trying to bring the glove back to the bag. You see that mistake get made so often on throws through to second base, dropping the glove straight down rather than trying to apply the tag. Allows for that runner to swim move, get back into the bag safely, but Matt's doing a nice job right there defensively.
First pitch to Warren Sammons will hit him in the back. Not what Thomas wanted to do here with 2 outs, so now the Crusaders will have runners on first and second, 2 away. And Ryan Farmer will be coming up to the plate. And Farmer, with the opportunity to drive in a couple early, he drove in the big one in that March 22nd game against the Tigers. Things were tied up late in the game in the 7th inning, and Farmer drove a solo home run that ended up being the game-winning shot. He went 3 for 6 up in Belton against Trinity. First pitch to Farmer, a breaking ball that catches the outside part of the plate, strike 1.
Yeah, and already a couple of times here, Brian, we've seen Thomas get the ball back and kind of push off of that back foot, working back up the mound. I don't think he's been happy with the way that he's thrown to this point. Some things off in his mechanics.
That last pitch gets away from him on the outside part, so evened up at 1-1. Bolin out there at second. Sammons at first, 2 away. Farmer sends this one the other way. Looks like it'll get out of play, foul. Metz gives it a look. A chance to get out of the inning here in the top of the first. And a swing and a miss by Farmer is out number 3 for Thomas. So an error and a walk, but it is left out there for UMHB. The Tigers will come up to bat with a chance to take the lead in the bottom of the first. A scoreless top of the first for UMHB, and now the Tigers will come up to bat, try to keep that 10-game win streak going. Tanner Haney will lead things off starting at shortstop. The reigning SCAC hitter of the week, MJ Metz, will bat second. Ezra Gore in center field, batting third. Up in the cleanup spot now, the catcher Tyler Pettit. Brian Schaub batting fifth and playing left field. Jack Wisniewski at third, batting sixth. Batting seventh, the second baseman Colt Harris. In right field, batting eighth, Jack Vonderhaar. And designated hitter batting ninth, Christian Holloway. That Tiger lineup will go up against the San Antonio native, Zach Carroll, the sophomore from right here in the Alamo City. Ronald Reagan High School, the former Rattler, Zach Carroll. So a homecoming opportunity for him. He faced Trinity up in Belton a few weeks ago, and now he'll get the chance to pitch on the mound at Trinity. We've seen lots of San Antonio natives for opponents this year, Luke.
Yeah, and watching Carroll should be especially exciting coming from Ronald Reagan High School, a baseball powerhouse here in town over the past 5 or 6 years, Brian, dating back even longer than that. You know, he has that sophomore standing up on the screen, but he's a guy that's taking advantage of extra eligibility given to him due to COVID and the pandemic season that happened when he came in as a freshman. So he's in his third year in this Mary Hardin Baylor program. Through about 21 innings last season, only 8 so far this year, but exciting to see him get a start here against an opponent like Trinity in his hometown.
And he'll start things off on the right foot for him as he gets the leadoff hitter, Tanner Haney, to bounce out to shortstop. Get a good look at it. Just a little chopper to short. Haney to his counterpart, Maniga over there, and it'll bring up MJ Metz, who had as good a doubleheader as you could possibly imagine in the game of baseball. He went 7 for 11, drove in 10 runs with 2 home runs on Saturday against St. Thomas, and that day alone was good enough to earn him the SCAC Hitter of the Week award. So MJ steps into the plate, looks at a strike, but not many people doing better than Metz right now, and it came after a 4-strikeout performance on Friday, so still getting the Hitter of the Week award after that tough night on Friday and the bounce back on Saturday.
Yeah, really, really impressive bounce back Saturday afternoon into evening time here in San Antonio. He saw the baseball so well after another strikeout that started Saturday's first game of the doubleheader. He came back and in that second at-bat of the day, homered for the first time. We talked about it on the broadcast. He fouled the ball off in that at-bat, and it just seemed to be a cue and just indicative of the fact that he had found his timing again.
And he finds his timing right here as he grounds a single up the middle into center field. So Metz keeps it going with the bat, and the Tigers have a base runner in the first.
Yeah, another really nice swing from Metz right there. We talk about it all the time on the broadcast. His frame being 6'5", 6'6", long arms, long legs. It's a struggle, or it's a different type of effort to get the foot down on time, to get the hands through the zone. If his hands leak out away from his body, they're going to travel a lot further than a guy like Ezra Gore up here at the plate. So incredibly important for Metz that everything's in sync, and it's difficult to get it done, but when it happens, that's the type of results we see on a consistent basis.
It's now an 8 for his last 12 for MJ Metz, and he's out there at first with Ezra Gore now at the plate. And Carroll checking on Metz, as he probably should, just like we saw in the top of the first where Thomas was keeping an eye on DeBerardini. Metz tied for the team lead with Ezra Gore himself, with 10 stolen bases over there. So we'll see if there's any action right now. Not going anywhere, and Gore grounds it to the third baseman, who has a little bit of trouble getting it out of his hands, and it's going to be safe at second. Groves, you saw a little hesitation throwing it to second, looked like a little bobble. And Metz getting down the line quickly. You'll get a great up-close look at that. And the second baseman, Harmon, feeling the presence of Metz right on top of him, and he's going to be safe. So the Tigers with an opportunity here early to drive something in.
Yeah, Brian, you mentioned that bobble that happened over there on the left side of the infield, but it looked like that throw got in there cleanly. It looked like Harmon was on the bag. A little bit difficult to tell from that angle. It was a really great shot, but couldn't see whether or not Metz's foot got in there ahead of the throw coming into second base, but I imagine that's what had to have happened right there.
With Metz and Gore on the bases especially, every millisecond counts, and you can see with Metz hustling down the line. And now Pettit will swing at the first pitch, and this one is going to be caught by DeBerardini. He throws behind Metz, and that's going to be a double play. A ball that looked like it might sneak into center field and is instead caught by DeBerardini out there. And so an interesting first inning for both sides with some opportunities left out with runners in scoring position.
Yeah, it looked on this replay like Metz might have originally stopped in his tracks between second and third base, but a little bit of a weird fielding decision by DeBerardini out there in center field, turning that glove over. Have to wonder if Metz saw that. Question as to whether or not that one was going to be caught or dropped, but unfortunate mistake on the base paths right there for the Tigers.
So a pickoff in the top half, a double play off a fly ball to center in the bottom half. We'll be back for more exciting baseball on Tiger Network after this. Each team gets some action going in the first, but no runs come across to score, so we're in the top of the second. And a first pitch breaking ball from Thomas to Staten Dudley, a little bit outside. Dudley, the sophomore from Lindale, Texas. This time a breaking ball higher, but still a ball, so 2-0 for Dudley. It's hard to find a Crusader on this roster that didn't get involved in that 24-7 victory over Concordia this weekend. And Dudley no different as he connects with this one, sends it into shallow center. A dive from Ezra Gore is not going to get it, so Shaw backing up behind him will keep Dudley to a single. So Dudley will keep it going. He went 2 for 2 against Concordia, and now a leadoff single in the second.
Yeah, and a good pitch from Thomas right there, having to come back, being forced to come back to throw a pitch in the zone. Goes with a fastball right there after a couple of curveballs missed in his first two offerings of the at-bat. Unfortunate for him, that one just muscled off the hands a little bit into the perfect spot in the outfield.
Harmon swings at the first pitch. A great snag over there by Wisniewski, and the long throw in time to get Harmon. What a play down the line, well into foul territory. Wisniewski behind the bag, and he guns it to Metz to get the out. The runner does move over, but a great play by the third baseman to get one.
Yeah, really great job by Wisniewski over there at third base. Gloving it is something that we're accustomed to seeing out of him. One of the surest defensive gloves in the infield all across the board, honestly, for the Tigers. I think one of the questions that sometimes comes into play over there for him at the hot corner is his arm, but drifting well into foul territory. There was no question on that one. He delivered the perfect strike right at the Trinity mark on the jersey to MJ Metz across the diamond.
Rhett Gross sends it over there. A little bit of an easier play for Wisniewski. He gets the throw, and now the runner trying to take third. And he's going to be called safe over there. A risky play by the base runner, Dudley. But it gets him an extra 90 feet as he wipes off third base, and now he stands just 90 feet from home for the first run of the game.
And another sure-handed play by Wisniewski over there at third base. Takes a couple of hops on his delivery to first. I think probably trying to entice that runner to take off, but doing a nice job on the base paths was Dudley, ensuring that the ball left Wisniewski's hands before he took off.
So Herrera will try to drive in the 2-out run, and he lines this one to right field, and it's going to get down in front of Vonderhaar. So Herrera comes through at the bottom of the order, the number 9 slot, delivers the first run of the evening for UMHB.
Yeah, not as firm looking as some of the previous offerings from Thomas. So you have to imagine that could be that change up right there, especially with the velocity that it exited the bat. A little bit too good of a pitch to hit in that situation, especially to a guy in the 9-hole. Want to see that one started on that outside corner, the arm side run that we've already seen from Thomas in this one.
He looped in a nice breaking ball to get to Berardini to swing over the top of it, so Thomas ahead 0-2. A quick check on Herrera at first, and Herrera's going. A swing and a miss will be out number 3, so no need to throw on to second. The Crusaders do score first with a run in the top of the second. Tigers coming to bat, looking to even things up. UMHB strikes first, but the Tigers come in to bat with plenty of pop in the lineup to change that in a heartbeat. And one of those at the plate right here, Brian Schaub, already with 7 home runs on the year. He had 2 in the weekend series against St. Thomas. First pitch to Schaub, outside for ball 1. And it looks like the Crusaders taking a play from the Tampa Bay Rays with the shift here in the middle infield. The second baseman, number 22, that you see right on your screen, Blake Harmon, to the left of second base. So 3 infielders between third base and second base. Great look at it right there. We'll see what Schaub can do with it. Fastball outside, called a strike. Don't see many teams shift in Division III, at least that we can remember, Luke.
Yeah, and overall don't see a whole lot of teams shift against the right-handed hitter. Especially a guy like Brian Schaub that has the tendency to hit the ball in the air either way.
Schaub ahead in the count 3-1, looking for something to drive. Instead, Carroll will stay away from the power hitter, and he'll draw a walk. Feels like we need a graphic for the walk counter for Schaub. It just keeps growing and growing game after game.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. An interesting approach in that at-bat from Carroll. Obviously, we mentioned the shift that was on in the infield, but a bunch of those pitches missing on the outside part of the plate. If you're going to walk Brian Schaub in that situation, I think you want to be missing with pitches on the inside, tempt him to swing the bat and force him to drive it through that area where you have three defenders.
By this point, though, he must be so used to receiving careful treatment, especially when leading off an inning. That's walk number 27 on the year for Schaub, good enough for 12th in Division III. And Wisniewski here squaring to bunt. A pitch inside forces him to pull it back. And he'll take another look at the signs down there.
Yeah, and so frequently we've seen these Tiger hitters step into the box, show bunt, and then keep the bat up on their shoulder the next couple of pitches, looking to do some damage with it.
Wisniewski does show bunt again. Carroll drops in a strike to even things up at 1.
Do have to wonder if after 4 consecutive, maybe not 4 consecutive in that previous at-bat to Schaub, but a less than competitive showing from Carroll on the mound where Schaub didn't see many pitches close to the zone. If Wisniewski trying to put the pressure on Carroll, that's exactly what he does there, forcing the issue and ultimately, hate to say it, but earning another hit by pitch.
Yeah, things are getting kind of ridiculous out here for Jack Wisniewski. He just keeps getting hit by pitches. Don't know what he's done to anger the opposing pitchers, but on Saturday in Game 1, he got hit by a pitch 3 times in that game. And so now, early on, he gets hit as he's trying to give himself up to bunt. The poor guy. I mean, he's already dealing with enough. His Milwaukee Brewers lose Game 1 to the Orioles yesterday, and now they keep hitting him. I don't know what he did. But we have another bunt attempt shown. Colt Harris takes strike 1.
Yeah, but looking back at Wisniewski, you look at his stats on the year, you circle that average coming into today at that 284 mark, much lower than we saw it last year, but something that hasn't changed no matter the way in which he does it, as Wisniewski gets on base coming into tonight at that mark of 460. Saw him walk last year. We saw him put the ball in play more than anything else, a guy that's not prone to striking out very much. Hasn't been a whole lot of the same in regards to putting the ball in play, spreading it all around the field, but he's kept the strikeouts down. In a couple of more recent games, he's drawn walks, he's reached via the hit by pitch, he's willing to make that sacrifice for the team, and he's up there for the lead or close to the lead in on-base percentage among these Tigers.
Yeah, it's really a strange line and a strange weekend for him. He played in all 3 games against St. Thomas, but he only registered 4 official at-bats, and that's precisely because of what you're talking about. He had all those hit-by pitches. He also drew some walks, and just a very patient hitter who gets on by any means necessary. And Carroll Gets ahead of Harris 1 and 2, but he has nobody out in the bottom of the second. Schaub already at second, and Wisniewski at first. So Carroll will try to navigate his way through the bottom of this Tiger order. And he'll loop in a breaking ball for strike 3. Harris stares at that one on the outside corner, so out number 1 for Carroll.
Yeah, not a whole lot to do with that pitch if you're Harris standing in the batter's box. Down 1-2 in the count, one that's just perfectly located. Might be a little bit low, but I think perhaps catches that bottom corner of the zone. Talked already in this one about trying to keep the hands in close to the body. That one's going to pull it away. Pull them away for Harris, make that one an even tougher pitch to even put into play, whether that's fouling it off, trying to ground it into the infield, put something in the air for the outfielder, but just a tough break for him right there, and a really good job of Carroll pitching with a couple runners on and no outs in the inning.
That pitch gets away from Carroll to start the at-bat against Jack Vonderhaar. Real nice job by the catcher Salmons, framing that pitch well for his pitcher Carroll, earning the strikeout. And Vonderhaar lines it into right, and just like UMHB's run-scoring hit, it's going to get down in right, and it's going to tie the game. Brian Schaub slides in safely. So Vonderhaar and the Tigers respond immediately to tie things up at 1.
Yeah, and Brian Schaub showing off his sneaky speed for someone that I think we talk about as a power hitter in this lineup almost exclusively. But a great job from Vonderhaar on that swing right there. Something we talk about a lot on the broadcast is the fact that these Tiger hitters do a great job of driving through the baseball, but it doesn't always pay dividends for them. A lot of the time hitting it directly at outfielders, taking away run-scoring opportunities. A good job for Vonderhaar right there, keeping that one on a line, low, right over the heads of these infielders, making sure it gets down.
So a walk, a hit by pitch, and an RBI single so far for the Tigers. And plenty left to do with Christian Holloway at the plate, the number 9 hitter, serving as the DH in tonight's game. Holloway shows bunt, pulls it back immediately. Ball 1. Holloway had a productive doubleheader against St. Thomas as well. He went a combined 4 for 9. Scored a few runs. No bunt this time. Instead, a ball up and in. Holloway in command. I don't know if we want to show the signs on TV. We'll see what Carroll attacks with behind. He goes right at Holloway, who puts a good swing on that one. You can see after the swing, he wanted that one to stay straight. Instead, it goes back into the fence. Puts the count at 2-1.
Yeah, but a nice pitch from Carroll right there at a 2-0 count, going a bit in on the hands of Holloway. We mentioned success last week in that St. Thomas series. Another big reason the Tigers were so successful, and big reason MJ Metz had the day that we were already talking about was the production of this bottom third of the lineup. 7, 8, 9 hitters doing a great job, and already here today, Vonderhaar 1 for 1, driving a run in. Holloway with a good opportunity right here to get on base himself, perhaps drive a run in, give the Tigers the lead, but setting up the top of the order well again here today.
Holloway will lay off the high pitch for ball 4, and that top of the order will have the bases loaded with just 1 out in the bottom of the second. Tanner Haney looking to do some damage. Yeah, and Haney in his first at-bat of the day, grinding out
grounding out to the left side of the infield to the shortstop over there. Someone that we've seen step into the batter's box since really he struggled at the beginning of the season, striking out in the majority of his early at-bats, has turned things around. He's become much like what we've grown accustomed to seeing out of Jack Wisniewski, someone that puts the ball into play a ton when he steps into the batter's box. Unfortunately for him, it just hasn't conveyed in a ton of hits so far this season.
He went through a really hot stretch in the middle of the season. Part of that was the visit to UMHB. He went 3 for 4, drove in a run back on March 22nd. Here he falls behind 0-2, but lays off that high fastball. But you just know Tanner wants to do well today. He's not the only Haney in the house. His father, Todd Haney, an assistant coach from Mary Hardin Baylor. And so a Haney in each dugout. We'll see what Tanner can do. He sends this one the other way. Bolin giving it a look, chasing it down, and making the catch in foul territory. Tough break for Haney, as he's robbed of an opportunity to drive in a few. Instead, Carroll will have 2 outs now and deal with the hitter of the week, MJ Metz.
Dan Carroll missing again with that breaking ball on the outside part of the plate. Difficult to tell if he's throwing a curveball or a slider, but more often than not, it's had a little bit more horizontal run than vertical break on it. These Tiger hitters need to make that adjustment, grow cognizant of the fact that more often than not, it's finishing outside the zone. He's pulling a little bit too hard and missing glove side pretty consistently right now.
He'll have nowhere to put MJ Metz. Wisniewski at third, Vonderhaar at second, Holloway at first. There are 2 away, but Metz ahead in the count. And he'll be even more ahead with a 2-0 in the dirt. Runners stay in their places, but Carroll in a precarious situation here in the bottom of the second. Already 1 run across to tie things up for Trinity. The infield shaded a little bit towards the left side. Harmon not quite pulling to the left of second, but he is shaded a bit that direction. But it won't matter if Metz isn't given a strike. And so far he has not been given one. 3-0 the count to MJ Metz. Ezra Gore waiting patiently on deck. And he'll be happy to see his teammate walk. Will Carroll attack him? 3-0 with the bases loaded. Metz taking strike.
And Metz not given the green light right there. If you're Carroll, you have to be careful with anything in the zone right here. Metz, earlier on this season, he was someone that was willing to go anywhere with the baseball. That's exactly what he does right there, sending that one into the left center field gap just a little bit, but a good job out there defensively to cut that one off, not allowing it to run to the wall, saving yourself a couple of runs, or I guess just 1 run. Staying over there at third base is Christian Holloway. See that one hard hit off the bat. I think a lot of the times we see that ball get down, but Berardini playing that one well out there.
But it wasn't in time to stop Vonderhaar and Wisniewski from scoring. And the Tigers have the lead after quickly falling behind in the second, but they waste no time getting it right back, something we see over and over this season. And we saw it in Game 2 of the doubleheader. A shocking start to St. Thomas, a 7-0 deficit. But no touchdown lead is enough against these Tigers. They came back to win 15-10. And it was really a deficit. Even though it was 7 runs, you never really expected the Tigers to be out of it. You just knew that they would find their way back. It started in the first inning with a Nathan Brolick homer, and they just kept chipping away. And And it was enough for a third consecutive home sweep here with in-conference play. And the win streak now in the double digits. Trinity would like to keep building on it. Gore will send it the other way, foul.
And I believe that was, 6 or 7 innings consecutively to start that game in which the Tigers scored runs. So it's all about mindset, mentality when you get down by those big numbers early on in games, having the understanding, the recognition that it's not going to all come back to you at once.
It ended up being 14 of 16 innings in which the Tigers came to bat, in which they scored. Just consistent and constant production from this lineup that averages over 9 runs a game, now in the top 30. Ball in the dirt to Ezra Gore, leaves him in a prime spot with a 3-1 count. In this 10-game win streak, the Tigers have scored double-digit runs in 9 of those games. The only one in which they didn't, a 5-0 victory against St. Thomas, in which Joseph Shavana threw a complete game shutout. He earned the Pitcher of the Week award yet again alongside MJ Metz, the Hitter of the Week. And the Tigers doing their part to keep the runs coming. Ezra Gore will walk to load the bases for Tyler Pettit, the cleanup hitter, coming to the plate.
Yeah, and that Saturday, couple of games where the Tigers were able to put up double-digit runs. You mentioned the fact that that was something they did frequently in this 10-game win streak that they're on, but I know you mentioned on the broadcast this weekend, Brian, when they are able to do so, scratch double-digit runs across the home plate, that they've been perfect this season.
First pitch gets well away from Carroll, and he falls behind again. 3 consecutive hitters in which Carroll has gotten behind, and you've seen the results. Mets with the 2 RBI single and Gore with the walk. It's hard enough to face these Tiger batters, but when you give them the opportunity to sit fastball, makes it even harder. Pettit looks like he just gets underneath this one. The wind blowing this one towards the bullpen, but Maniga will make the catch in foul territory. The hats falling off both Herrera and Maniga, the left fielder and the shortstop. But he does make the out for the third out of the inning. Trinity takes the lead 3-1 in the bottom of the second. We head to the top of the third now on Tiger Network. Well, Luke, since Jack Martinez has seemingly fixed his hat problem, no longer falling off in his last 3 outings, we're going to have to get use out of the graphic one way or another. And thankfully, the wind is blowing enough where you can see the shortstop Maniga and the left fielder Drake Herrera both with their hats off. So the counter at 2. There you go. The counter is back.
Yeah, certainly glad to have it back, and it makes sense. We know we talked about it this past weekend, the wind here in San Antonio ramping up to 19 miles per hour, especially late into the second game of that Saturday doubleheader. But things are even crazier here this evening, over 20 miles per hour right now. Something to keep an eye on, see how it affects this game, and of course see how it affects the hat counter.
Maniga, the man who had his hat fall off, now at the plate. Maniga, the freshman from Seguin, Texas. Little dribbler out behind the mound. Nice play by Thomas. And a great throw on to Metz for out number 1. Looked like it was going to get past the pitcher. But Thomas showing that pitchers are athletes too. You can see the quick reflexes to make the play and get Maniga out at first.
Yeah, really nice play from Thomas on the mound right there. Not sure that anyone is able to record that out if he doesn't get to that baseball. That one hit more towards the shortstop. And looked from the replay like Jack Wisniewski was charging hard across the diamond, but not sure that it would have been enough with someone in this 1 through 3 spot in the batting order. If an effort would have been able to get him out with the speed that he was showing right there.
Thomas falls behind Bolin. 2-0 here. Make it 3-0 with that breaking ball that stays up. Thomas, his last time out, went 4 innings, gave up 5 hits, 3 runs, but only one of those were earned. This one gets away from him, spiked in the dirt for ball 4, so Bolin will head on over to first. But Thomas had 7 strikeouts in those 4 innings against Our Lady of the Lake, and it was a productive first start of the season for him. He had made all of his appearances up to that point out of the bullpen, 7 before that start. But these midweek games, an opportunity for different people to get some opportunities, and Thomas stepping in for his second start. Thomas bounces back from the walk with a first pitch strike to Salmons.
Yeah, I'm throwing well to this point here today, despite having a little bit of difficulty with his mechanics. It seemed like early on in this one, I don't think he was satisfied with the way he was finishing, the way he was driving down the mound. I don't think he was finishing as much as he would like to have, really focusing on and pushing off of that back leg. But here, that last at-bat, that 4th ball that he threw to Bolin, throwing a little bit over the top and missing egregiously in the dirt, spiking one that got all the way to the backstop. But really outside of that, only one pitch that's hurt him over the plate, a little bit of a changeup that caught too much in what was still a hitter's count position where Crusader in the batter's box had to defend, already down 0-1.
Salmons will have to defend. You could see him choking up on the bat a little bit, but he won't get to swing the bat again. Warren Salmons may be joining a club with Jack Wisniewski, the hit by pitch club. It's the second time Salmons has been hit by a pitch in this game alone. And you can see no intent at all. Thomas upset by the curveball that just got out of his fingers in the wrong way. He was ahead of the cleanup hitter. And so now runners at first and second, just 1 out, and Farmer stepping up to bat. Farmer struck out his first time. And he looks at a first pitch strike. Close one, but up and away strike, says the home plate umpire. Bunt from Farmer, and it's a good one. Wisniewski with the play and the out. Wisniewski continues to shine at the hot corner, this time fielding a bunt that looked like a bunt for a base hit, too. Did not look like a sacrifice with 1 away. The runners do move up, but 2 outs now in the third.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. A bunt for base hit attempt right there, but the turn of the bat caused that baseball to come off the bat with a little bit too much velocity. Well placed down the third base line, but a little bit too much on it. Wisniewski, who recognized it early, was already coming in, charging that baseball. Seen him make a couple of nice defensive plays over there at third already. The nice glove work and a little bit of a shorter throw for him. Not much question that he was going to come through right there.
With 2 outs and 2 runners in scoring position, a visit to the mound from pitching coach Dave Smith. You can see him having a thoughtful conversation with the pitcher, and it'll have to be broken up by the home plate umpire as he's been out there for a few seconds now. So the home plate umpire saying it's time to get back to action. Coach Smith in his 20th season at Trinity as the pitching coach. So imparting some wisdom on the senior pitcher. He'll have to get past Staten Dudley, who already has a base hit today. A 2-out knock would likely tie the game, but Thomas looking to keep things in favor of Trinity, and he starts things off with a breaking ball for strike 1.
Yeah, and a good job from Thomas right there, just to get ahead in this at-bat. Especially doing so with a breaking ball, establishing that pitch important.
He gets a weak grounder to MJ Metz, flips it on to Thomas for out number 3, and the Tigers will stay ahead as Dudley strands runners in scoring position to head to the bottom of the 3rd. Good one from San Antonio. Crusaders strand. A few more runners out there, already up to 5 men left on base. So Trinity still ahead as we head to the bottom of the 3rd, and a familiar face for the Tigers now on the mound. New pitcher, Alex Palczewski, who came into the game to Belton as the starter when these two teams faced off against one another. A breaking ball starts things off with a strike. Palczewski going 3 innings, allowed 6 hits and 3 earned runs in that start against Trinity. This time he comes in from the bullpen with his team behind, but he starts the at-bat with Schaub, 0-2.
Yeah, and that last pitch looked to be in a similar position to a breaking ball that we saw go against the efforts of Colt Harris earlier on today.
Schaub with a little chopper, and he's going to be called safe. Bolin can't believe it. But the first base umpire will say that he had his foot off the bag. A tough play for Groves on a weak little ground ball, but Schaub hustling out of the box. A relatively clean throw, a pick from the first baseman. But the umpire said he was off the bag, so a leadoff runner for Trinity. And Wisniewski, again, will have the opportunity to move a runner over or move him in. We'll see if we can keep the ball away from his body. He got hit in his last time up, trying to bunt. No bunt shown this time, and a ball low to start things off.
I would think of that last at-bat. Brian Schaub forced to swing the bat a little bit. Saw another pitch in a similar position to the second offering, down in that corner, down and away from him, perhaps a little bit outside the zone again. But swinging it just as a precaution and able to beat that one out in the infield. I think here in the booth on the broadcast, initial reaction was that Boland's foot was off the bag over there at first base, and I think that replay confirmed that.
It goes down as an error. Wisniewski waits back on the off-speed delivery, sends it to center field where DeBerardini has plenty of room to get it back into the infield, out number one. Some good contact from the third baseman, but right to the center fielder will bring up Colt Harris. Here's another close look, an excellent view of the play at first. The ball in the glove of Boland, and his back foot possibly still on the bag. Tough angle, but nonetheless, a man on first, and now a man on second. Colt Harris drives the first pitch for a single into left.
And Harris starting his hands early right there. Not a bad pitch from Palczewski. It looked to be a two-seam fastball that had a little bit of arm side run on it. But for Harris, starting his hands early, important right there as he's able to get that barrel around and on the baseball as he sent that one into left field.
Off-speed pitch stays high for a ball. Vonderhaar gets ahead 1-0. Harris showed good patience, waiting back on the off-speed delivery. We'll see if Vonderhaar can do the same. Instead, he shows bunt. It's a good one. Palczewski will have to make a tough throw. He does. Vonderhaar just out at the bag. He thought he beat it. And another time that we saw it first from UMHB, now we see it from Trinity. A bunt with runners on first and second, one away, so clearly gunning for a hit. But the infield making good plays all around. This time it's the pitcher, Palczewski, with the off-balance throw for the out.
And you mentioned that bunt for base hit that we saw from UMHB on the previous, or in the previous half inning.
Holloway swings at the first pitch. Little ground ball to second. Harmon has no trouble with it, so Palczewski escapes trouble in the third. The replay of that Vonderhaar bunt looked like it was yet another close play at first that could have gone either way, and this time it goes the way of UMHB. So Trinity stays ahead 3-1, heading to the top of the fourth. Thomas still on the mound for the Tigers, and he'll be back after a quick break. Tigers and Crusaders trade, stranding runners in scoring position in the third. So now time for the fourth. Blake Harmon leading things off for UMHB. Breaking ball drops in there for strike one. Harmon, the sophomore from Highland Village, went 0 for 2 as a pinch hitter in that offensive onslaught against Concordia. This breaking ball a little bit high for ball. Harmon making his 14th appearance for the Crusaders. Not as many starts as the more regular starters, but still a consistent piece in this UMHB lineup. And for Thomas, trying to go at least 4 innings for 2 weeks in a row. Misses with a fastball high and away.
And we saw 3 breaking ball offerings from Thomas to start this at bat. The first one, as you mentioned, he dropped in there nicely.
This 3-1 pitch sent out to left field for a single in front of Brian Schaub.
Something we've talked about on the broadcast in previous games is the fact that pitchers so often go to that breaking ball to try and establish their release point, but the second and third offerings missing on either side of the plate. Then Thomas turning around with that fastball right down the middle. Harmon was able to turn on and send into the outfield. To imagine, again, that it is the mechanics that Thomas is struggling a bit with right now, not necessarily that release point. As again, before he steps a foot back onto the mound, fiddling with things a little bit, trying to finish a little bit more. That's what he was signaling right there.
His first couple pitches to Groves miss. Thomas has allowed a base runner now in each of the first 4 innings. The Crusaders have only been able to bring home 1, though, and Thomas checking on Harmon, nothing doing. But you have to believe that Thomas is used to having runners on base, considering the fact that he so often comes in to late game situations for the beginning of the year. Somewhat of a closer for the Tiger team. Breaking ball misses high for Thomas, and you can see the frustration. Thomas telling me ahead of his first start last week that that's what he's been most proud of, though, the ability to not let things get to him on the mound. In the past, as he begins to struggle, maybe letting it spiral quickly. But this year he's been able to handle things and be more patient with himself, understand that he can get things back in order. And as he said, it's his senior year. It's his last year playing baseball, so why not? Has nothing to lose, really, so has to leave it all out on the field. Right here, he's tagged for a base hit into right, and the Crusaders have something going as Groves with a single that moves Harmon from first to third. And we'll see if Thomas can get out of this jam.
And again, not a particularly hard hit ball off the bat. I think at first glance it seemed to be, but it died as it got to the outfield, especially when it hit that grass. Vonderhaar doing a nice job coming up to throw it in.
The visit this time from pitching coach Dave Smith will result in the change, a call to the bullpen being made. And Alex Bin will be the new man on the mound for Trinity. We'll take a quick break on Tiger Network as Bin tries to get out of this one. Drake Herrera, who drove in the only run of the night for UMHB, will get another chance to do the same. And he has runners at the corners, nobody out. And a lefty on the mound against a lefty hitter, Alex Bin, newly in from the bullpen. Bin making his first appearance since that centenary series a few weeks ago. He'll keep tabs on Groves over there at first. Bin going just a third of an inning against the Gents, gave up a run and a walk. Second pitch from the lefty misses, and Bin falls behind 2-0. Some more action in the Tiger bullpen. And with Thomas coming out of the game in the fourth, expect to see many arms out of that pen. Nice block from Pettit there. Keeps Harmon at third. But Herrera ahead 3-0. We'll see what the left fielder decides to do here. Taking on the off-speed delivery, strike one.
And for Bin, important to just come right at Herrera right here. I want to try and get through this 9-hole hitter before you face the top of the lineup. That's not what's going to happen. Falling behind 3-0 in the opening at bat almost never ends up fruitful for the new pitcher, and that's exactly what happens right there. Bin loads the bases now for the top of this Crusader order, still with no outs here in the top of the fourth.
And a tough task with that top of the order coming up. DeBerardini already showing a willingness to swing early. He takes the first pitch. It's outside for ball one. You see he's 0 for 2 on the day. That hard hit ball back in the first was ruled an error by shortstop Tanner Haney. Could have gone either way. This one hit hard towards left again. Schaub with the sliding catch. And the runner Harmon at third, nowhere to go. So a perfect out for Brian Schaub, helping out his pitcher, Bin. 1 out now with the bases loaded.
Yeah, really nice play from Brian Schaub out there in left field, something that we talked about this past weekend. The approach that needs to be taken on those balls in front of outfielders, plays that can't be made on the run. Schaub there instead opting to come in, sliding feet first. Much better approach than coming in on the dive. Even if you aren't able to secure that ball on the slide, you have a better chance of knocking it down, making sure it stays in front of you. So hard to judge the baseball and continue to, or adjust your body to make a play and keep it in front of you.
Tough call going against Bin on that last pitch. He thought he had it on the lower part of the plate. Instead, Maniga ahead 2-0. A similar pitch, more away than middle. But the umpire calls it a strike this time.
And I think definitely the same height on those two pitches. The only thing that I could assume right there is the fact that the first of the two being called a ball was a little bit more centrally located, perhaps blocked by the catcher and Tyler Pettit. But a good job from Bin responding with a couple of strikes in a row to draw the count even at 2-2.
The 2-2, tough take by Moniga. But he doesn't budge at that one inside, so the count taken full. The shortstop has the bases loaded with just one away. A ground ball could get us out of the inning. But Maniga puts it up in the air. Harris in the shallow outfield. The wind taking the ball all over the place and next into the glove of Harris. So a couple of fly ball outs. Not what the Crusaders want to do with the bases loaded and nobody out. And now Bin will have to go through the power hitter Bolin to get out of this inning, but it's been a nice job so far by the sophomore.
Yeah, a nice pitch right there, similar to the one that we saw get called a strike early in that at-bat, that far and away corner. There's Bolin turning on another pitch on the inside part of the plate, sending it into the Tiger bullpen. But a really nice job defensively in the infield by Harris over there at second base. You mentioned a really shallow pop-up that barely gets out of the infield, but not nearly deep enough for any help from an outfielder on that last one. A good job by Harris dealing with the wind, continuing to move his feet, making sure that they don't get static at any point. They continue to move as he adjusts under the baseball.
The 1-1 chopped to third with Neski charges on to first, and out number 3, Alex Bin comes in and gets out of a bases loaded, nobody out jam. Tigers remain in front, 3-1. All smiles from Bin and the Tigers. Welcome back to San Antonio. We are past the 8 o'clock hour, so it is finally getting darker here in South Texas. But that last inning, a real bright spot for the Tigers as Alex Bin able to navigate his way through the top of the Crusader lineup that had bases loaded, nobody out, the 1-2-3 hitters, and Bin getting weak contact from each of them to keep the Tigers in front 3-1. And now the Tigers will look to add some insurance to give their pitchers a little more breathing room. And it'll begin with their top of the order, Tanner Haney, 0 for 2 so far, trying to start things off.
And quickly falling behind 0-2 in this count. That last swing appeared to be rather long. Look for him to try and shorten up right here. I think something that he's done successfully in the latter half of this season, making adjustments mid at bat, something that we're prone to seeing out of him. That's exactly what happens right there. He shortens up just a little bit on that pitch that's middle away, and does just enough to put the barrel on it, sending it straight back into the fencing.
Haney sends this one to second base. Harmon collects it on to first for out number 1. You see how hard it is to wait back on the deliveries from the 6'6 righty, Alex Palczewski from Fort Worth, Texas, but he wasn't always in Fort Worth. He grew up right here in San Antonio, in fact. Played at the Alamo Heights Little League with myself. Growing up with Alex on some of the same teams at the Little League over there. He's actually still in my fantasy baseball league. And he took Adley Rutschman in the final round of our draft, and I just couldn't believe that he had the audacity.
Sure, a pleasure getting to watch him here on Tiger Network, but I'm sure you're rooting for MJ Metz now in this at-bat, especially considering that last little bit of information, Brian.
It's Tiger Network, so can't forgive for taking the #1 prospect in all of baseball. Would have never expected it. Adley Rutschman, for those wondering, Adley Rutschman still the #1 prospect in Major League Baseball.
Can't be too mad at him. It's an educated decision to go with Rutschman in that situation.
That is a good way to look at it too. I mean, so many times you have hate on the Orioles, so at least they're earning some respect around the world and around Texas and around Division III baseball. Palczewski misses with a delivery here, low and in to Metz. He's the tallest pitcher on this UMHB roster. 6'6" Palczewski, 6'5" MJ Metz. A battle for the ages. And it'll keep going as Metz fouls it, just barely, to stay alive.
Yeah, but again, in this at-bat, seeing that MJ Metz is right on the baseball. Good offerings, good pitches from Palczewski in this at-bat, but don't want to leave anything over the heart of the plate. Want to continue to go away with the baseball. It's exactly what he tries to do right there.
A good at-bat so far from the 6'5" senior. Palczewski got ahead, but Metz has laid off of a few close ones, and now the count full. Metz skies this one behind the plate. Salmon's giving it a look, but he'll run out of room. Closing in on that brick wall behind the backstop. The 3-2 one more time. And the battle will be won by MJ Metz, drawing a one-out walk. And you can just see how well he's looking at the ball right now. Not only 2 for 2, but he's walking, not chasing at pitches. So a huge change from that Friday night to this Tuesday night. Just a small adjustment made, and it's working. First pitch misses low to Ezra Gore.
Right here, a really important spot in this lineup. 3 through 6 hitters, although they've been productive on the day. Not all of them registering at-bats because of walks and hit by pitches, but when they have registered one, they're a combined 0 for 5 to this point. This is the chunk of the lineup that you really expect production out of, especially Gore sitting in that 3-hole. Comes into this one, currently swinging .362 on the campaign. We've seen that number dip just a little bit in recent weeks. A guy that was swinging it as well as anybody right around the time that the conference schedule started. But now way ahead in this at-bat right here, an opportunity to come through with one out here in the bottom of the 4th.
Behind 3-0, Palczewski gets a strike to Gore, and Gore really one of those that if it's somehow possible to be quiet while hitting .362, it's somehow what Ezra's done. But with so many of the Tigers really heating up as of late, thinking about MJ Metz the last few games, but Brian Schaub driving the home runs everywhere, Tyler Pettit hitting home runs in consecutive games, you kind of forget what Ezra does, but he just does it night in and night out from that 3-hole. He doesn't move from that spot in the lineup. And the only time he hasn't played this year was that game up in Mary Hardin Baylor. He didn't get to travel to that game, but he was right back for the Centenary Series and just a consistent producer in the lineup for Trinity. Thought he had a walk. Instead, he'll chop it to short. Harmon tries to get 2 on the turn, but he'll be late with the throw to get Gore, so Gore replaces Metz at first. And Pettit will step up with 1 out in the 4th. 2 outs in the 4th.
Yeah, and a nice pitch from Palczewski right there after falling behind 3-0 in that at-bat. Worked his way back into it with a couple of fastballs, more so over the heart of the plate. And then with that one, again in a spot that we've seen called a strike pretty consistently today, but one that I'm not sure we'd agree on the home plate umpire with. That area down and away to these right-handed hitters forces Gore to pick up the bat.
Pettit puts the bat on this one, sends it into left. Gore trying to take third. The ball right in front of him, and he's going to be thrown out. Herrera charging in with the little looper from Pettit. And Gore taking the risk, rounding second, trying to take the extra bag. Instead, he makes the third out at third. We'll get a look at it. A big swing from Pettit, but it was a jammer. So it landed in front of Herrera, and he had the throw right in front of him to get the Crusaders out of the 4th. So Trinity still up 3-1, headed to the top of the 5th on Tiger Network. Beautiful Texas flag blowing out to left center field here in San Antonio. Luke, you talked about it being a windy night from the start. We haven't seen many balls in the air driven out by either team. And the Crusaders have left 8 on base, including the bases loaded last inning. Really the perfect illusion that they were going to score.
Yeah, and it was an illusion, especially considering the fact that they had those bases loaded with no outs in that inning. But Alex Bin came into the game, did a tremendous job, and he continues that here in the top of the 5th, inducing that ground ball, and sure-handed as ever over there at third base as Jack Wisniewski making another nice play in the infield.
And if it seems like Wisniewski has been busy over there, he certainly has. Not often you point out the assist stat in the box score, but he has 5 already today. And they've been tough plays, seemingly all of them. He either has been having to come well in front of him or range over to the foul line. But the super senior showing that he is not just productive at the plate, but steady at that third base position. And he's certainly helping out his pitching staff. Fastball blown by Farmer to get back into the count 2-1. You know, Alex Bin, not only a pitcher, but a social media curator. He has an Instagram for his cooking and an Instagram for his pitching. And so far, these have been some Instagrammable performances. Getting out of that bases loaded jam and doing well here in the 5th so far.
Yeah, especially with the fastballs that he's thrown in this at-bat. A couple that were elevated, just too enticing for Farmer to lay off of, especially a couple of offerings ago. One up and in the zone a little bit, had Farmer spinning on the balls of his feet, similar to that one right there, but tall righty able to catch up to that one, get just enough of it to foul it off behind him.
Farmer fighting off a fastball high to stay alive, 3-2. And that one right there on the inside part, but the home plate umpire not moving his arm. And you can see the Trinity coaches not thrilled with that call. Head coach Tim Scannell on the left. Pitching coach Dave Smith right there in the middle. And the master of complete game shutouts on the right, Joseph Shavana. Good trio there. But Ben will have to work around the walk, and he picks off the runner, and he's going to take care of that one right away. So the call goes against Ben, so why stay there for long? Not even pitching to Dudley. The second pickoff we've seen today, the Crusaders trying to take second. But the perfect throw from Ben to Metz, and there's 2 outs, nobody on.
Yeah, a little bit confused as to what happened on that one. Looked like Farmer over there at first base was staring in at Ben the entire time. And it looked like he took a little bit of a step towards second base when Alex picked up that lead foot, but Ben on the mound not committing to going home in any capacity, so surprising to see Farmer so delayed in getting back to first base.
I mean, you're looking right at the left-handed pitcher, and it just must be a real good poker face from Alex Ben, looking right at him and not knowing if he's going to go to the plate or to first, and it works out in Ben's favor. 2 scoreless innings for the sophomore, and he keeps Trinity ahead 3-1 as he maneuvers his way through this tough lineup that is yet to put more than 1 run on the board. We'll be back on Tiger Network after this. Third pitcher of the evening entering for UMHB. After a couple of innings from Carroll and Palczewski respectively, it is Cameron Bogan who will get the shot to go through this Tiger order, starting with Brian Schaub. First pitch from Bogan. A strike to Schaub. Schaub has earned the walk. And he reached base on the throwing error. So he continues to reach base with ease, whether it's the home run where he skips all the bases or the walks that he so consistently racks up. Big swing from Schaub on the delivery from Bogan, who's on the mound after going an inning against Concordia, gave up a run on 2 hits. Bogan tries what looks like a slider on the outside part of the plate, but Brian Schaub not biting. We see yet again, that was a look at the center fielder, DeBerardini, but the outfield and the infield shaded to the left, and we once again have the 3 infielders to the left of second base playing Schaub to pull. This time Schaub won't put it into play as he looks at a called strike 3. Bogan coming in and striking out Brian Schaub.
And hard to tell where exactly that pitch was located, with the second baseman right in front of the strike zone, shifted directly into the frame. That one similar again to a couple of those pitches that we've seen down and perhaps a little bit outside of the zone to those right-handed hitters. Didn't have Brian Schaub even picking up the bat off of his shoulder.
Bogan, the third pitcher in the game for UMHB, and the third pitcher that the Tigers faced in that matchup up in Belton. And so no real secrets between these two teams that faced off just a few weeks ago. And all year long, it's been a fantastic matchup to keep an eye on. UMHB versus Trinity. Lots of emotion on both sides. There are some of the bigger games, like football, the playoff game that UMHB won 13-3 over the Tigers, a really close one up in Belton. Then the men's basketball team knocking Trinity out of the playoffs as well, but it's not lopsided, Luke. Men's and women's tennis, Trinity defeating the Crusaders. We've had women's basketball beat UMHB. And so the overall record this year between the two schools is actually 4-5 across sports. UMHB defeating Trinity, of course, in baseball for that 5th win on the Crusaders side, but Trinity has a chance to even up the score at 5 apiece between the universities.
Yeah, and it would be incredibly impressive if they could do so here tonight. One of the few teams that's had the opportunity to play Mary Hardin-Baylor twice in one season, so to be able to turn around and knot the overall scoreboard up at 5 apiece would be especially meaningful when they lost to this team just about a month ago.
Yeah, the other Tigers putting up victories on the board, men's soccer. And then for UMHB, the softball team sweeping the Tigers in 2 games. So those are where we get the 4 victories for Trinity, the 5 victories for UMHB. Tigers trying to make it 5 for their institution. Wisniewski skies this one out to center. No problem for DeBerardini.
Yeah, the Tigers' effort being impacted a little bit by the home plate umpire here tonight. A couple of pitches that I think Jack Wisniewski believed to be outside the zone were called as strikes. One of the first times we've seen that happen with a left-handed hitter up at the plate, but ultimately forced him to swing the bat. And though he got a lot of the barrel on that one, just skied it out to center field.
And it's especially noteworthy when it's Wisniewski complaining about the strike zone. With just 5 strikeouts this year, Wisniewski, one of the best eyes in the entire lineup, if not Division III, honestly, when you look at those strikeout numbers. So he knows his strike zone extremely well. And if he felt the need to chase, you have to wonder what was going on as Harris himself chases on a slider down and away. Salmon's asking for the ball high. He gets it there, but Harris puts a good swing on it. The ball drops in play, but not enough room for Farmer out in foul territory. Looked like the catcher wanted it higher than that, out of the zone. Have to be careful behind 0-2 on Harris. You see Salmon's looking into his left forearm to see what to call next. Bogan ready with the sign, and he goes with the off-speed pitch this time. Misses away. The old school actually looking at a sign and putting the fingers down. Might have seen in Major League Baseball, that's not good enough anymore. Technology taking over. They communicate with some sort of remote technology to alert the pitcher what the sign is. You like that, Luke, as a former catcher yourself?
I mean, not something that I was ever accustomed to using. I don't know if there's many players, if any, at even the Division III level who are using that right now. I think some of it's happening at Division I baseball at that level. I think it's a little bit unfortunate that it's become a necessity almost, especially at the major league level, but I think that here tonight, more traditional approach, something that certainly will work, and I'm glad that it does. Both of these teams are keeping things honest out there.
Well, it's funny, when the technology hasn't worked a couple of times early this season, the first time it's been used, to hear the broadcasters wonder if the catchers and pitchers are going to be able to communicate without it, as if they haven't been doing it their whole careers. But it's just how dependent we've become on technology. And in the bottom of the fifth, Bogan depending on the breaking ball, and it works as he gets Harris to swing and miss at that one. A second strikeout for Harris, and a clean bottom of the fifth for Bogan and UMHB. A close one from San Antonio. Neither team has scored since the second. We head to the sixth on Tiger Network. Perfect. Alex Bin back on the mound after 2 scoreless innings out of the bullpen so far. And with Bin still on the mound, it allows us to ask our viewers where you're tuning in from, because Alex Bin's father, earlier this season, tuning in from Suriname in South America, really spurred us to want to find out where you're tuning in from on Tiger Network. Little Tiger Network spotlight. So if you're watching on YouTube, tell us where you're watching from. Could be the smallest nation in South America, like Mr. Bin.
Be hard-pressed to find anyone tuning in from as far away as South America on the broadcast. I know we've had some in the past, or at least assume we've had some on the past joining us from Massachusetts, joining us from Wisconsin, but it's been a while, and even then we've had someone in an entirely different continent. So hard to top that, certainly.
It has been a while. But Ben continues to get the outs necessary here. Little weak ground ball from Harmon, and since he's entered, Ben has not allowed hard contact. It's all been weak pop flies, ground balls. And he grows off with a first pitch breaking ball. That's a strike. Groves sends it to right field. Vonderhaar calls it off, and he has out number 2. It's a shame Alex Bin didn't come in to pitch last game when we were talking about Kelly Clarkson, since you've been gone.
It works perfectly for you, Brian.
Sometimes it's not in the universe. But we made it happen anyway. So, Bin trying to get out of the third inning, out of the bullpen, but he'll have to go through at least one more batter, Herrera, with his second base hit of the evening. He's been on base all 3 times, 2 singles and a walk, and he brings the top of the order back up with DeBerardini.
Yeah, doing a really nice job from that 9 spot in the Crusader lineup. Now moving to 2 for 2 on the evening. Doing an excellent job of flipping the lineup over, but the batter's hitting ahead of him. And those 1 through 3 spots in the order, a combined 0 for 7. You factor in 4 or 5 hitters as well, just 0 for 9 for the Crusaders on the night. So Herrera doing his job, and other members in the bottom half of the order doing theirs as well as the 6 through 9 hitters, a combined 5 for 11 this evening as Herrera is able to swipe second base safely, putting a runner in scoring position for the Crusaders here in the top of the 6th. 2 outs on the board, but now a threat within scoring position.
You had to figure Herrera might be off and running, that stolen base number 15, but no damage done after all. Harris able to gather that ground ball. It was sharply hit right at him. Had a little bit of trouble with the ground ball initially, but he gets it onto Metz in time. And so the Crusaders nearly able to manufacture a run with the stolen base, but Bin with 3 scoreless innings to keep the Tigers in front. Luke, I am so excited. People are talking in the chat. Thank you for tuning in and for engaging. We've got 5 states accounted for: Wheaton, Illinois; Little Rock, Arkansas; Blue Bell, Pennsylvania; Scottsdale, Arizona; and Albuquerque, New Mexico are where we have viewers from so far. If you haven't commented, you still have time. We're just in the bottom of the 6th. We're here in San Antonio, but we have fans from around the country, it seems like.
Yeah, pretty impressive showing for a Tuesday evening on Tiger Network. Glad to have everyone with us here tonight. Really good action through 5.5 innings, 3-1 scoreline. Been really close to this point.
It's been close, but the Tigers would not mind having some room between them and the Crusaders, and Vonderhaar looking to get things going, and he does a good job with an opposite field single. He's hitting the ball well. He has 2 base hits on the evening. Our viewers from across the United States and maybe Suriname will be sad to see us go, but it's only a week. I promise we'll be back on Tuesday. The Tigers head to Shriner this weekend, so they will be in Kerrville. No Tiger Network. It'll be the end of an 8-game homestand, but on Tuesday, the 19th, the Concordia Tornadoes blow into town. That one nearly blows away, but Bolin able to track it down and keep Vonderhaar over at first. Great to see these non-conference matchups. See some new teams in town: UMHB, Concordia. We've had McMurray and DeSales in town. Of course, those early season series against Babson and Wisconsin Whitewater. Different styles, different players, different mascots.
And a lot of really, really good competition early on this season that we got to watch here in San Antonio.
Certainly, but Tiger Network and Trinity University have been a good place for the Tigers this year, as Holloway loses the bat, and it's right to the Tiger dugout. A dangerous play there. Looks like it caromed off the net, possibly, and our very own cameraman in the danger zone. No net. Caromed off the top of the dugout. Yikes. Look out. Hope Reed's okay. Hope the camera's okay.
I'm glad you prioritize Reed in that situation, but also got to make sure the camera's good. All the awesome angles that he's able to provide. Glad that he's able to get into the dugout. Gives us such good perspective, such a good angle, and such good looks of our left-handed hitters in this lineup, like Jack Vonderhaar in that last at-bat. Sending that baseball through the left side of the infield, something that we talked about a little bit in regards to his performances, as Haney does the exact same right there, sending that one to the right side of the infield. But Bolin doing a nice job fielding his position, touching on first base, and a lot of really good communication from the Crusaders right there, relaying to the shortstop, Maniga, that Bolin had stepped on first base. He needed to apply the tag, and that's exactly what he did.
We've seen some stellar defense on both sides. The Tigers and Crusader defense really helping out their pitchers. Isaac Brand had come into the game, the new pitcher for UMHB, and he just gives up a hit, but no damage beyond that, as the double play helps him get out of the inning. A quick break on Tiger Network before Alex Bin on the mound for a 4th inning. Welcome back to Tiger Network, an international network. We've got a fan in Cozumel, Mexico. Viva Mexico on Tiger Network.
Representing for you, Brian, here on a Tuesday evening.
We transcend borders on Tiger Network. That's what we do.
Now we do, apparently. Well, I guess we have been for a little while since Mr. Ben joined us from South America. But now you've officially put it into words for us here.
Yeah, we transcend borders and Ben transcends bats because the UMHB bats have just not been connecting.
No, they have not been.
Up until maybe right now, Bolin gets it in the air and gets it over the fence, right over that 365 sign. He pumps his arm in the air and signals his 10th home run of the year, 28th of his career, and run number 2 for UMHB on the board.
And never so quickly has the announcer's curse, the broadcaster's curse, come back to haunt us here on the Tiger Network, Brian.
You know, he has transcended bats up until that point. But Bolin is tough to get out so many times. He had not done much tonight. But as we mentioned, the holder of the record for home runs at UMHB.
Yeah, you had mentioned already on the broadcast the wind, those flags out in center field, blowing out and to left field. So a good job from Bolin right there. A nice swing after he illustrated his defense at first base. Doing a nice job of getting the ball in the air.
Right here, Warren Salmons fouling it off himself. And Salmons has had a tough evening when it comes to the pain he must have been feeling. 2 hit by pitches in his first plate appearances, and now a foul ball straight into himself. And that one has to hurt. Salmon still taking some time.
Yeah, and he looked like he hit that one straight into the inside of his lead left thigh. You see it happen where hitters turn on a baseball, hit it into that lead foot. There's padding and protective gear that can protect for that, but nothing that Salmons can do about that last ball.
And the worst part about it for Salmons, he has to go back behind the plate as the catcher. But he's hanging in there, and he's fouling that last one off. On that last take, you see our very own Josh Muchigemba in the dugout. He's here. Ryan Cedillo in the chat saying he's watching from San Antonio. Not sure where you're at, Ryan. We miss you here at Tiger Network. But we're somehow surviving. And Alex been thriving so far. Just that one run allowed on the home run from Bolin. Salmons choking up on the bat and looking at strike 3. Perfectly placed pitch on the inside corner. And Salmons can do nothing but walk back to the dugout.
Yeah, and a great response from Ben in that at-bat. Getting tagged for the first time this evening, but coming back to the 4-hole hitter, and as you mentioned, attacking really, really well on the inside part of the plate a couple of times. That pitch that Salmons fouled off of himself, I think, was sticking in his head a little bit. Ben doing a nice job of positioning that last fastball in a similar place. Salmons not wanting that same result, choosing to lay off that one, hoping that was going to miss inside, but Ben just absolutely painting the black on that inside corner.
Pitch goes right there once again, and Farmer nodding his head, acknowledging the pitch. There's not much you can do with it. If he's going to dot it right there. Pettit looks like he's setting up in there once again. Can Ben hit it again? He does hit the spot, but Farmer hits the ball carrying to left. Schaub towards the wall, and he looks at it go. One too many fastballs on the inside part of the plate. Farmer turns on it and ties this one up at 3.
Yeah, and something that we see out of left-handed pitchers on the mound, a little bit of a decrease in the velocity, at least as compared to right-handed pitchers. You mentioned one too many fastballs on the inside part of the plate. That one, I think, a result of a miss from Alex Bin on the mound. That one catching a little bit too much of the middle of the plate. I think Pettit, as both of us would assume on Tiger Network, wanted that one in on the hands yet again. Place that Bin's been incredibly successful already this inning, but that one missing by about 5 to 6 inches towards the other batter's box and lining up right in the path of the barrel.
Farmer continues to be a dangerous batter against these Tigers. Had the game-winning home run in Belton in the same 7th inning when things were tied. And this time in the 7th inning from San Antonio, he's the one to tie things up. Dudley with the fly ball to right. And MJ Metz with the basket catch before running into the tarp. Great play by MJ Metz out there for the 3rd out of the inning. But the Crusaders show their power. A couple of home runs from Malik Bolin and Ryan Farmer leave us tied at 3 as it's time to stretch in San Antonio. One of the better ones we've had in a while on Tiger Network, so don't go anywhere. Zach Honey answers the telephone in the bullpen and answers the call. Become the newest Crusader pitcher on the mound. We've now seen the Crusaders go to new pitchers in 3 consecutive innings, and this will be a unique angle for MJ Metz to hit off of. Honey gets that one in for a strike. The sophomore from Round Rock, Texas, has had a fantastic year. This is his 9th appearance out of the bullpen. He's thrown 10 2/3 innings and has an ERA under 1, a .84 ERA. So the Crusaders going with a trusted arm to try to go through 2, 3, 4 of the Tiger order. Metz, Gore, and Pettit due up with a newly tied ball game. And that's going to be strike 3 looking. Metz looks disappointed at the call, but the home plate umpire ringing him up And Honey making an immediate impact out of the mound.
Yeah, unique motion from Honey on the mound, and one that I think is perfectly set up to hit that spot down and away that we've seen pretty consistently get called a strike from the home plate umpire. So for these 2, 3, 4 hitters now in the bottom 7, certainly can have their work cut out for them after the Crusaders were able to tie this ball game up with a couple of solo shots in the top of the 7th.
But Gore gets a good piece of that one and is able to get it into center field for a base hit. And Ezra Gore extends the hit streak to 17 games now. He had been kept quiet in his first 3 times up. But you can't keep Ezra quiet for long. And will they be able to keep Ezra at first for long? With the speedster now at first with 10 stolen bases on the year, will he try to make something happen with Pettit at the plate? Pettit goes down and gets it. Another shallow single into left. 2 in a row for Tyler Pettit. And on consecutive pitchers, the Tigers with 2 singles, they have something brewing in the 7th.
Yeah, another nice swing from Pettit right there. Gore this time opting to just move up to second base, being satisfied with that rather than trying to push it. Recognizing that that one's dropping in front of him right there in left field. Herrera already in this one had thrown him out at third base, but one out here in the bottom of the 7th with Brian Schaub coming up to the plate. Don't want to risk anything.
Schaub takes ball 1, and Honey, as mentioned, an ERA below 1, hasn't given up a run since March 15th. 5 consecutive outings for the lefty, but in some trouble here, and Schaub, with a golf swing, takes it out to center field. De Berardini goes back and makes the catch. Gore will tag and head to third, so Schaub just misses a big fly, but the Tigers still with runners at the corners now 2 away.
Yeah, and a big cut from Brian Schaub right there. You mentioned the little bit of a golf swing. That pitch from Honey staying down in the strike zone. Again, impressive that Schaub was able to drive that one as deep as he did. But now for the Tigers, runners on the corners. First and third situation. One we saw earlier this season, something that we talked about this weekend. The Tigers defended this, opting to pursue a runner between first and second base, allowing someone to score from third. I have to imagine that this is probably what this discussion is in reference to right now. The entire infield coming in on the mound, discussing with the coach on that visit how exactly to handle Pettit and Gore at first and third. Pettit, everyday catcher for the Tigers, but someone that's shown a bit more speed than one might assume.
It'll be a tough at-bat for the lefty Wisniewski off of the delivery from the lefty Honey. But we've seen some good at-bats so far from the third baseman. We'll see what he can come up with. First pitch, a strike to Wisniewski. It was a visit from head coach Mike Stosky, not the pitching coach. So the strategy discussion on the mound. Stosky in his 3rd season as head coach for UMHB. Came after a stint at Concordia, Chicago for 4 years. Now trying to help his team win at Trinity. The 1-1 count to Wisniewski. 2 outs here in the bottom of the 7th. Gore reaching with a single at third. Pettit at first with a single as well. That one a close one. Called a strike. And Honey gets ahead. And of course, because why not? Jack Wisniewski hit with the pitch. A second hit by pitch for Wisniewski after 3 on Saturday. That's 5 in the past 3 games. And I don't know what he has to do to avoid the ball. It's just confusing.
It's come by everyone that's faced him. We've seen right-handed pitchers up on the mound that have had a little bit too much break on their sliders and curveballs. Leaked all the way across, run all the way across the zone to come in and get that lead leg of Jack Wisniewski. But then you have a guy like Zach Honey on the mound dropping down from the left side. Always run the risk of that arm dragging a little bit, falling behind and missing. And you have a left-hander in there like Wisniewski, more often than not, it's going to result in a hit batter.
Big swing by Harris, deep to left, and it's out of here. A grand slam. Colt Harris with 2 outs in the 7th. And the Tigers ahead 7-3, just like that.
Yeah, just like that is absolutely right, Brian. You think back to that last at-bat, a couple of pitches that had Jack Wisniewski staring with the bat on his shoulders, wasn't going to pick it up. All of a sudden, he gets hit by a pitch. The bases are loaded. The Tigers then have the advantage with a right-hander in Harris at the plate. And he just turns on one that leaks right over the heart of the plate. A guy that had struggled this past weekend just a little bit. Saw him earlier in this one get way out of front with his hands, make sure that the barrel was out there on a pitch inside. The same thing happens on one right over the heart of the plate. And just like in the past inning, with Bolin stepping up to the plate, making sure that he got one up into that jet stream blowing out to left field. Harris mimics him, but he does it with the bases loaded.
What a swing by Colt Harris. His 3rd home run of the year and his 2nd grand slam of the season. Harris driving a grand slam out of Wolf Stadium, the home of the Missions, earlier this season, and now the bat's really rolling for the Tigers. Vonderhaar gets it down into the right field corner, and he has a stand-up double. And the Tiger offense on fire. Right here, Vonderhaar gets it into the corner, and at the end of the play, you might have seen, looks like the home plate or the field umpire telling Vonderhaar to stay as the ball got stuck over there, but nonetheless, the 10th hit of the game for the Tigers, 7 runs on the board in the bottom of the 7th. And after the Crusaders had tied things up in the top half, the Tigers have responded in quite the big way.
Yeah, and Vonderhaar now swinging the bat incredibly well. We mentioned the fact that he's beginning to use the other side of the field, singling through the left side in his previous at-bat, but that time with a rifle right down the line. We're going to take hits from the bat of Vonderhaar, from the bat of either of these 5th-year seniors, any way that they can get them. Vonderhaar now approaching that 320 mark on the season.
Zach Honey had come into today allowing just 1 run on the year, and he had not allowed a run in 5 straight appearances. But the Tigers getting to him. And Luke, you mentioned the broadcaster's curse in the top half. Not sure why you haven't brought it up in the bottom half. But here we are with the Tigers up 7-3. And Honey just gives a little glance to Vonderhaar, bouncing around at second. Whole new hop in the steps of these Tigers. Breaking ball lands on the outside part of the plate for strike 3. But the Tigers with the grand slam thanks to Colt Harris, his 2nd grand slam of the year. And it could not have come at a better time. We head to the top of the 8th with Trinity up 7-3. Alex Bin had given up the lead in the 7th. The Crusaders were looking good, but the Trinity offense had other plans for tonight, giving Bin the backup he needed. Now on top, 7-3, and he remains out there. This will be his 5th inning of work, and he's looking for the big shutdown inning that we talk about so much, but it couldn't be more important at a spot like this. The top of the 8th, Crusaders running out of time, and it would be huge if Bin could shut this offense down right away.
Yeah, and outside of those 2 home run balls that were given up this previous inning, Ben has looked really phenomenal out there on the mound. A lot of soft contact that he's induced. I think that's exactly what he's aiming to do when he comes into these games. He has the stuff to strike hitters out, but he throws so consistently in the zone, and with the movement that he has on the baseball, understandable as to why he's coming in with that approach.
That fastball misses high and in. Was trying to go in on Harmon as he was against Farmer. Farmer was able to turn it into the game-tying home run, but Bin has seen success going in on these right-handed hitters. And he mixes in a curveball in the dirt. Harmon has no shot. Curveball looking good from Bin for the first out of the inning.
And another instance of the broadcaster's curse right there. As soon as I say that he's not aiming to strike any hitters out, it's exactly what he does. But you mentioned that breaking ball right there with a ton of movement on it, dropping underneath Harmon's bat. Really great pitch from Ben right there.
And Rhett grows up at the plate now, and you get a zoomed-in look at his pink shoelaces from the right side of the box. And many of the Crusaders have been wearing pink accessories and pink on their uniform, as Groves skies this one to Ezra Gore. But the pink in honor of Caden Musgrove's mom, who passed away earlier this year, just a few weeks ago, and UMHB has been honoring Caden's mom, who died of breast cancer, with the pink out that they had this past weekend against Concordia. They released a lot of pink balloons and had one float over the mound for a good amount of time. And as luck would have it, Caden's mom passed away 17 days after she received her breast cancer diagnosis. And when the Crusaders honored Caden's mom, they won the game by 17 runs. So just a crazy, crazy circumstance, but we wish all the best to Caden and his family, and it's cool to see the Crusaders honoring their teammate with that pink all over their uniform.
Yeah, and what a really awesome environment for Caden to be in here, to be surrounded by all of these people, all of these teammates who have really rallied around him. They've all bought into this cause. They've all bought in to honoring his mother. It's just an incredible support system to have in such a difficult time.
Absolutely. It's been a difficult season for the Crusaders, but they've done their best to keep things going and show support for their teammate. Here in the top of the 8th, Ben continues his domination on the mound with the strikeout to end the inning, and the Tigers keep their 4-run lead intact as we head to the bottom of the 8th on Tiger Network. Welcome back to Tiger Network. Tanner Haney due up first in the bottom of the 8th. We talked a little bit about how Tanner's dad, Todd Haney, is the assistant coach for the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor. Tanner telling me he had never played against his dad up until earlier this year when the Tigers went up to Belton. So now this is instance number 2 in which Tanner goes against his father. But not only is Coach Haney an assistant for Mary Hardin-Baylor, but he has a long history in baseball, most recently coming from being a director of player development and analytics at Texas State. And Coach Haney was also a great player back in his day. He was drafted by the Seattle Mariners in 1987 after his play at the University of Texas. He spent a few years in the major leagues with the Mariners and the Expos and the Chicago Cubs. And now he's coaching against his son Tanner, who also went to the University of Texas before transferring here to Trinity.
Yeah, and I'm sure Tanner stepping into the batter's box now, 0 for 4 on the day, wants to make sure that he exits this one with a hit as well as the victory against his dad after they dropped Game 1 of the 2-game series that the teams will play this season.
Well, Tanner did quite well up in Belton. He went 3 for 4, drove in a run, scored twice. He lays off a high breaking ball here. I'm sure he would be just fine with the Trinity victory, but of course he'd like to get in the box score as well. He has a 2-2 count against the new pitcher, Chris Dubois. Dubois misses with the fastball outside, takes the count 3-2. Foul ball off the back. Strike 3 for Dubois. And MJ Metz will come to the plate.
Yeah, and so difficult to lay off those pitches up in the zone like that one right there, even when they are as high as being eye level. And, there's a lot of speculation as to why that might be the case, but I think a big part of it is the fastball starts at that level, right? Even with your eyes, makes it even simpler, even easier on the hitter to recognize the spin on the baseball, to see that it's a fastball. It takes a little bit longer to process the fact that it is as high as it is, and when you're thinking fastball, first reaction is to swing the bat, and I think that's exactly what we saw right there.
There's definitely a give and take. We've seen Haney so often chase a pitch like that and make contact with a pitch you'd never expect to be put into play. But then there's the instances where he will be unable to connect, like on that last one. And now Metz falls behind as well, 0-2. Breaking ball from Dubois gets Metz swinging. So Dubois comes out of the bullpen and has struck out the top 2 hitters in the Tiger order. The freshman from Decatur, Texas, is making his first appearance since April 1st against East Texas Baptist, in which he went an inning, didn't give up a run. And he also came in for an inning against Trinity on March 22nd. Had a scoreless outing then as well. So Dubois, seemingly not afraid of this Tiger order. And he gets a strike called there to Ezra Gore. That one close, but missing just a little bit low to Ezra Gore, who I know would especially love to beat UMHB after he was on that football team that lost to the Crusaders back in November. Gore trying to tell that ball to go foul. You can see him motioning as he steps out of the batter's box, but the ball won't listen to Ezra Gore. Instead, it'll be a 1-2-3 inning for the Crusaders. who now have their last opportunity at the plate. Trinity looking to hold on to this victory. Don't go anywhere on Tiger Network. It's been a good one, and we're in for a good finish. Top of the ninth here in San Antonio. And it is Alex Bin on the mound looking to wrap things up against the top of the Mary Hardin Baylor lineup. And a great start for him as he drops in the breaking ball to DeBerardini. It's been an impressive showing for Bin so far. Can he finish it with the ninth? It was a ground ball towards the right side. Bin giving it a chase, but it goes foul. DeBerardini not moving. Bin gets ahead 0-2. On number 2. DeBerardini grounds it right to Harris. Couple of steps to his left, and that's out number 1.
Yeah, and since those couple of home runs giving up a couple of innings ago, Bin has looked almost stronger than he did before that fact. I saw the strikeout in the last half inning. Took only 3 pitches right there to retire the number 1 hitter in this lineup. So now just 2 outs away from finishing this one up and going a full 6 innings on a Tuesday evening, coming in relief.
Bin falls behind him, Maniga 2-0. And that one gets past the catcher Pettit. So Bin behind on the shortstop now 3-0. The Crusaders have been living on the edge of glory all evening, leaving 9 runners on base, many of those in scoring position. But they have not been able to deliver many big hits. It was 2 solo home runs that tied things up in the 7th. Off the bats of Malik Bolin and Ryan Farmer. And Bolin coming up right now after the walk to Maniga. A visit incoming from Tyler Pettit and pitching coach Dave Smith. Will it be a conversation or will it be a pitching change? And the arm has gone up for Dave Smith. So that will be it for Alex Bin, who turns in a phenomenal performance here on a Tuesday night non-conference matchup. He's still responsible for that runner at first, but he did quite the job tonight. 5 1/3, 3 hits, just 2 runs allowed. He struck out 3 and gives way to Harrison DeRoe as the Tigers try to pull back even on the season series with UMHB, and they'll look to do it after the break. The walk by Maniga earned the Crusaders a chance to see one more pitcher here in the top of the ninth, and it's Harrison DeRoe. And DeRoe, like so many Tigers, putting in some of his best performances of the year in this latest stretch during this win streak. DeRoe, in his last outing, just on Saturday, a couple of days ago, he went 6 innings, allowed just 2 runs, and had a career-high 10 strikeouts against the Celts from St. Thomas. First pitch to Bolin, a little bit low.
And we've talked, I know, the last couple of broadcasts about a few pitchers in this rotation, in this bullpen, who have flipped roles. DeRoe early on this year, making several starts for the Tigers. Corey Cater, another one of those pitchers. On the flip side of things, Joseph Stravana, early on in the season, coming out of the bullpen. But all 3 of those guys fulfilling different roles now. Harrison DeRoe really settling into things in this position out of the bullpen. He's been incredibly dominant, really making use of that breaking ball that we see him drop in there right now.
And he drops it in after a close call went against the sophomore out of Dallas, who's newly on the mound. You could hear the Tiger dugout not happy with it, but DeRoe fighting back, evening the count, and striking out Bolin for the second out of the inning. A big out on the big bat for the Crusaders. And the Tigers just 1 out away now.
Yeah, a couple of really nice breaking balls in a row, pulling the string on Bolin right there. DeRoe doing something that we saw out of him in his last outing, and just utilizing that breaking ball, demonstrating utter control over it as he does right there again, able to drop it right at the bottom of that zone, start it right in the middle portion of the plate, really true middle portion of that plate. I think these hitters standing in there expecting it to drop all the way out, and taking it right here against Salmon, seeing it in a second pitch, not wanting to see the same result, but DeRoe changing the location that he starts it and having it finish in the dirt that second time.
And that's strike 3. Bring on the applause and put your ones up. That's 11 wins in a row for the Tigers. And it was an impressive one tonight in San Antonio against a quality Mary Hardin Baylor squad that came into San Antonio with a 17-12 record, and a Crusader team that had defeated the Tigers once already this season. But pitching and timely hitting for the Tigers allow them to pull it out tonight.
Yeah, absolutely right about that, Brian. Something that we've talked about in some of our more recent games, the timely hitting of this Trinity offense. A little bit more of a discrepancy today, 7 runs on 10 hits. I know this past weekend we got used to seeing X amount of runs on as many hits in a ball game, but it happened again today where the Tigers found a way to put runners on base. Think back to that Harris home run late in this one, the bottom of the 7th, after the Crusaders had come back to tie it up. Right before him was Nesky doing a good job, a hit by pitch, putting him on to load the bases. And Harris, with just one swing of the bat, really cracked things open here in San Antonio.
It was an efficient game, a very clean game for both sides. There were a couple of errors early on, but after that, incredible defense, the pitching on full display, especially on Trinity's side. Joel Thomas getting the start, going 3 innings, just the 1 run allowed. And then Alex Bin with his best performance of the year, going 5 1/3, giving up just 2 runs. And he nearly got to his career high of 5 2/3 innings, which came last year. But this is by far his longest outing of this season. And then Harrison DeRoe coming in to close things out with a couple of strikeouts, because why not? Harrison has been piling up the strikeouts, and it's just a full team effort here in San Antonio. Trinity pulls even with University of Mary Hardin-Baylor on the season series, not only in baseball, but across sports. And it's been a great time on Tiger Network. It's been a great homestand. 8 games over the last 11 days. We are going to be sad to not have you with us over Good Friday weekend, Passover weekend, but we will be back with you on Tuesday, April 19th. The Concordia Tornadoes will face off with the Trinity Tigers. But until then, thank you to our control room and our great people working the cameras. For Luke Terry, I'm Brian Yanselson. Have a terrific Tuesday night.